future.
Good evening, everyone. We are finally live. Finally live. We have been having some technical difficulties with streaming.
No, wait. Not we, they.
They are, yeah, not us. We didn't do
I'm
it.
not
So,
pressing buttons, man.
it's not us. So, guys, we appreciate everyone joining us tonight. Thank you for tuning in to the AandEPodcast. I am Andy Stowe. He is Eddie from Mackworth, and tonight we are joined by Logan Booker from 960 The Ref.
What's
Logan,
up, gentlemen?
how are you, man?
I've told Eddie like 37 different excuses about why I was not available, but finally I decided to throw my man a favor. So no, I'm honored to be here. Happy to be along, man. Thanks for including me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on. Yeah, I know Eddie. I tell him like every week, I'm like, look, shoot Logan a text and see if he'll come. And he's like, nope, he's not doing it this week either.
I apologize. I have had like an abnormally busy spring. I was like talking to my wife earlier, like I'm really ready for a few week stretch with like nothing, no obligations. I mean, like it's just something has been going on a lot, which is a good thing. You want to be busy, but I'm ready for summertime to like kick in. Like the kids are now gone from Athens. Yeah. I actually had an event that I was at earlier today. We'll talk about a little bit in a few minutes, but I drove down Millage Avenue to Lumpkin over to Baxter, and there were like 3 cars on the road. This was like at 4:00 in the afternoon. It was awesome. So Athens summertime is kicking in. That's a really good vibe right now.
Yeah, it is. When I'm leaving work now, it's great. There's nobody there. I can just ease out. Yeah. Red lights don't matter, anything.
It's awesome, man.
Well, as always, Andy, if you're out there watching us live, click the like button for us. That always helps things. And if you are live, chat in. If you've got questions for Logan Booker, let's throw them out there to him. And once again, we really appreciate you joining us, Logan. And just to let everybody know, Logan Booker is co-host of the 960 The Ref morning show 6 to 10 with the great David Johnston. And I love listening to their channel because it's sports, of course. That's the thrust of it, but it's heavy UGA, and I have zero problem with that. And if you're a UGA guy or girl, you need to tune into these guys because they cover everything you can think of related to UGA sports. I use the TuneIn app to listen. They have a 960 The Ref app if you're out of the area. Obviously, I'm in Ackworth, so I can't pick up 960 The Ref in Athens. So use TuneIn, use their app, and follow Logan Booker on Twitter at Logan M. Booker. Logan, I want to ask you first.
Eddie.
You are a graduate of the University of Georgia Grady School of Journalism, right? Okay.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I want to go back before that. So as you were growing up a kid, Logan, were you A, big fan of the University of Georgia Bulldogs? And B, did you have aspirations in your mind as a child? I want to be a broadcaster when I grow up.
Great
question. So the first question may surprise you a little bit. I was not born into a Georgia family. Like my father, I think he liked sports because I liked sports. He kind of appeased me a little bit, took me to Braves games and would watch some things with me and talk about baseball. But I did not have this like college family background. And by the way, my dog Ringo is like chewing on a chew toy back there. I'll try to get him out of the room in a second. Funny thing is, now I'm 41 years old, so date me back to like the 90s or so when I'm a kid growing up. Born in 83, so the early 90s. I don't have this like family connection to Georgia, but I, like a lot of people in that age, liked the Florida State Seminole football team. They were good. They were fun. They were fast. That was that Mark Richt offense. The Charlie Ward days, man, they were fun. I actually had a Florida State starter jacket.
Everybody had a Florida State starter jacket.
If it wasn't the Charlotte Hornets, it was Florida State Seminoles, I think. But I liked them. I enjoyed them, but obviously there was no connection there. But I can give you the aha moment. And I remember this vividly, being in my basement over at Lawrenceville, Georgia, and I was watching that epic 1997 beatdown of Florida down in Jacksonville. Just an amazing game, but something clicked. Now I'm 14 years old. I'm getting a little bit into that age where I got to start, feeling my hometown roots and all that. Something really clicked watching that game that, like, that G on that helmet is my home team. Like, I know I don't have connections there to the university or anything yet, but I felt like that is the Georgia damn Bulldogs, and it just clicked from then on. So, like, after that, a couple years later when Mark Richt took over the program and Georgia really took that next level of being really fun, and I got to an age where, my friends started going to Georgia. I did not go to college right out of high school, but we started hanging out in Athens more, and that just really built that connection. And it was later in life when I actually started college myself. So I'm a late bloomer in terms of academics, but Yeah, to answer your question a long way, I did not grow up a diehard Georgia fan, but the majority of my life now I have been, and I'm very, very proud to have that diploma on my wall now. So
that's awesome. And it's funny, Logan. It's funny, Logan. I'm kind of that same cloth, believe it or not. My whole family, my grandfather's valedictorian of Georgia Tech. So I grew up actually going to Georgia Tech games at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Now, I was a kid. I didn't really have a rooting interest. I just went because they went. I didn't really care. But when I enrolled at the University of Georgia, 18, I was a black sheep of the family. They were not happy. And I'm like you, Logan. I stepped foot on that campus the first time, absolutely fell in love with it. And then I went to my first game, and I was like, oh my God, this is heaven. It's just unbelievable. So that's funny. I'm very similar to you, and I know Andy's a little different. He grew up a Dogs fan, right?
So nobody in my family went to Georgia, but I grew up from the time I can't remember not listening to Georgia games. Before they were on TV, it's always been the Georgia Bulldogs and the Atlanta Braves. And they always talk about the when David Green hit Michael Johnson. When they opened
the Hilltop Grill. Baby.
I was in Commerce, Georgia, watching that game at the Pottery. They had a big projection.
Pottery, yes.
And so that's all the ladies were out shopping. Me, my dad, and my brother, with a bunch of other dog fans, were sitting there watching it on that big projection TV. So I remember that game. But yeah, I grew up a dog fan, but I didn't graduate UGA. So that's the thing. But yeah.
And Logan, the second part of my question was, did you grow up wanting to be in broadcasting?
I did, but I had no idea it was possible. I mean, that's the thing. I used to listen to sports talk radio and had a little affection for radio. But I'll be honest, I grew up not believing in myself as much as I should have, I guess. I don't really know how to explain that, but I always felt that was unattainable. I always felt like that level was something that, that's just for the experts that are probably born into that stuff, whatever. And even when I was at college, when I was at Georgia from 13 to 15, not that long ago, we're talking a decade ago, but I was in Grady for magazine journalism. I mean, I was in the sports media program. I fully thought I'd go on to be a writer, be a beat writer, do something. Even if it wasn't sports, I would do something with writing, which I really enjoyed and feel like I was decent at. But when I got into sports media and started doing the beat writing thing, and by the way, I'll admit to anybody that wants to listen, I am a failed beat writer. They try to knock the fan out of you and say, you got to be unbiased. You can't be a fan of this and that. It's like, that ain't working for me, man. I'm way too entrenched with my love of this sport, this team, this program, this school. And I'm in this to maybe do something that allows me to do that. So I did not do well at the actual beat writing. But when I started interning with Cox Media Group, who I'm still with now, I started doing some writing for those guys, which I was able to have a little bit more fan leeway. Then just long story short, opportunities opened up one by one while I was there that eventually put me in the seat at 960 The Ref. I filled in as a backup for many years when somebody was out, but then just opportunity after the other. Now I've been in that seat for 5 years now, and I absolutely love it because I get to talk to people like Eddie that call in, and we can be mad about things and we can actually have emotion. So there's a big pocket of media that you're not allowed to be a fan. I hated that. So I'm very, very fortunate. I think that I'm in a business where I can be a fan, and I enjoy every second of it.
I always wonder how guys that, come from like Kevin McAlphin, for instance, he's from up in New Jersey area. And I think he went to Temple. I think he graduated there. Yeah. So I'm sure he did not grow up a Braves fan. He worked for the Phillies earlier before he came down here. Mm-hmm. So I want to ask him, how is it to go from working for probably the Phillies, who he grew up rooting for, to now working for their rival? I've always been curious because I couldn't do it. I would, if I started working for the Phillies, I would be like, screw this team. I hate them. Go Braves. And I don't know how they do that. So that's a question I really want to ask him.
Yeah. I hope to never switch markets and have to do that. I mean, I never would. I'm with you, but there are some people that are able to turn the fandom off and be professional. And sometimes that leads to a liking. Like, for instance, Larry Munson he didn't have Georgia ties until he started working for Georgia.
Yeah. Right.
And now he died as diehard a Bulldog as anybody ever has. Yeah. So when you're around a team in a program, I assume it kind of gets in your blood. But I'm with you, Andy. If I had a job in Philadelphia, I'm turning it down, man. No thanks.
There's no way I could go to work for the Florida Gators and act like I like the Gators. I would kill myself before I said go Gators. So.
Well, that's another reason I like listening to 960 The Ref. You guys, Logan and David, so much, because they're like we are. They're ingrained. Yes, they cover the team, quote unquote, right? But they're emotional like we are as fans, right? And they're upset when the Dogs lose. They call them out when things happen and don't go right. And that's what I love. That's the sincerity. Some of the Atlanta talk stuff, guys, it's embarrassing because you got guys from up north who have no concept of what sports here in the South is. They act like they do. They act like they've been here forever. They act like they care. They really don't. They really don't when they lose, and it drives me insane. That's what I love about the sincerity of your show on 960 The Ref.
Well, I take that as a big compliment because we're doing our jobs, man. Like we are fans with microphones. Dave and I will both tell you that, yes, both of us have a degree on the wall that says we know how to journalism. But do we consider ourselves journalists? Not to the definition of journalist. We're fans with microphones. And it's enjoyable as heck, man. Like, a lot of people hate going to work Monday morning. I like going to work Monday morning because we have a full weekend of stuff to get to and talk about. So I'm very fortunate to wake up and do something I genuinely enjoy, even if it is 4:15 when the alarm goes off. And I'm used to it. It's all good, man.
I got one more question for Logan before we move on, if that's okay, Andy. I want to know the one interview in your career, Logan, where you just kind of pinched yourself and said, wow, this is really happening.
I think it may have been Chipper Jones. I think
is that right?
And I like Andy and you, Eddie, grew up a diehard Braves fan. Like my former dog that my wife and I raised, we had to say goodbye to him back at Christmas because he just got old. Dogs get old. But his name was Chipper. We big time Chipper Jones fans. But I think this was probably maybe 2015 or so when it was the Georgia baseball like preseason banquet, and Chipper Jones was the keynote speaker that night. And some of the media folks were able to go up into a suite over at the Classic Center and interview Chipper before he did his speech. And I and a small group of 5 or 6 other media guys went up there in the suite. Actually, was able to sneak my wife up there with me. And she thought that was fun as heck. But we talked to Chipper, and that was one of those just aha moments where I'm like, look, I don't cover the Braves with a credential. I've not been around a ton of Braves players at all. I've just never really dipped my toe in that portion of it. But all of a sudden, I'm in a room with Chipper, like my childhood idol. And I'm like, I get to ask this dude a couple of questions. Like, that was pretty cool. So that was one of the aha moments. Other than that, I took a picture with the Backstreet Boy on the Kentucky sideline. That was kind of cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That is a good one. No, Chipper's my guy as well. He, when I was young, I played first base, and then Chipper came up, and of course, I know he wore 16 when his first, but he was number 10. So I changed from number 1 in first base to 10 in third base just because of Chipper. So that's I got his book over here autographed. So
nice. That's awesome. I see my man Fireball Rodney tuning in, by the way. Love me some Fireball.
And that's another thing. Garrett Key is a big fan, big dog fan, and
love me some Garrett too.
He's moving us into where we were wanting to go. The Dogs, the baseball team, is playing the Florida Gators right now, and it looks like they're in the top of the 9th with 1 out, and they are beating them 9-2. And so, Logan, that's a question I wanted to ask you about this Georgia baseball team. How good are they? And how far can they go? Because if they win tonight, which it looks like they're about to finish this one off, they very well could host a regional. How far can this team go? And when you look at them playing the Gators, who's better? Is it going to be Jack Caglione? Is he better, or is it Charlie Condon?
We're a little biased here, just slightly, but Jack Caglione is amazing. I mean, that dude's going to make a major league team happy as heck here in the near future. But Charlie Condon is just one of those. He's another story. Can you believe that we're having another walk-on to riches story at the University of Georgia? Obviously, Stetson Bennett will never be topped what he did, but I mean, Charlie's awesome, man. That guy is a natural hitter. He looks not to put the pressure on him, but he has that natural Chipper Jones-like approach at the plate.
He does.
And there's 1,000 batters you can use the same comparison with, but he just looks natural as can be. It's special. I think Dave and I talk all the time. Like, what we are witnessing right now is something that we will talk about in the same regard as a lot of former Georgia players. I mean, I'm trying to, off the top of my head, some that come to mind are just ridiculous, man. It's just he's a legend. There's a Mount Rushmore of Georgia baseball, and he's on that right now. Gordon Beckham and Charlie Condon will be in the same sentence forever now with what he's done. So as far as how far they can go, I'm with you. I think we're putting ourselves in a really, really good position to get that home regional, and I think it's going to happen at this point. And no matter what happens in Hoover next week, honestly,
I think
nobody would ever say this, but an early exit is not a bad thing to maneuver.
Yep.
You want to go win that thing. You want to be SEC champions, but if you do get bounced early with a resume like Georgia, okay, shake it off, go get ready. I think we're going to host a regional and things can get really interesting there. But I think Georgia can go as far as the pitching. Georgia has proven over and over. I mean, look at the score right now as we're talking, 9 runs on these guys. And we've put up, what is it? If we get double digits tonight, they'll be at the 4th. And well, we're not, probably not, since we're in the 9th already. But point is, we're like scoring double digits like it's nothing against the SEC lately. And that's impressive. So if the pitching doesn't collapse, and there's really no sign that it will.
Looks like it's getting better. Yeah, they're getting better.
I think Georgia's peaking at the right time right now. There is not a team in this nation that's going to see themselves matched up either in a regional or a super or pray to God the World Series that's going to say, oh, it's just Georgia. Yep. Nobody wants a piece of Georgia right now.
Yeah.
Well, I looked it up before we started the show, guys, and Charlie Condon last year versus this year has improved in every batting category you can think of with less at bats thus far. Every one of them. He cut down his strikeouts. Obviously got more home runs, more hits, more. It's incredible to look at his stat line all the way through compared to last year. And didn't he hit a home run in the Tech game that didn't count? I think he did, didn't he?
Charlie did not. There were 3 guys that did.
Okay. I thought Charlie was one of them. It was just the home run tally is what it was that was messing it up. Okay.
Yeah. So the crazy stat that for Charlie right now, he needs to homer. It looks like he's not going to tonight, but he needs to homer in the next 2 games because the only SEC series in his career, the last 2 seasons that he didn't homer, was Kentucky at the beginning of this year. Every single SEC series outside of that, he's homered. So I would love to get him to tack on 1 more before we get into postseason play. That'd be a nice number.
Incredible.
Well, I do have a question for you. This is a little trivia question. You probably know the answer. And this is coming from our good buddy, Paul Meharry, who is celebrating his birthday today. Paul's turning
Happy birthday, Paul.
33 years old, I think he said. So, yeah, he's getting old.
Is that really true, or is he lying?
No, he's,
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I would have guessed 39, but that's just me.
Hey, he looks older than that. He's probably
happy birthday, Paul.
But yeah, Paul told us the other day there are 2 other schools in the country that have had a player go first in basketball, a player go first in football, and a player go first in baseball. If Condon goes number 1 overall, Georgia will be the 3rd team. Do you know the other 2 schools?
I know LSU is one of them. LSU had Shaq. They had a Paul Skeens last year, and they had a Joe Burrow in the recent memory.
That one's easy,
and they may even have 2 number 1s from each the school if I had to dig deep and remember. Gosh, I feel like we talked about this, me and Dave, not long ago. Is it an SEC school or no? Can I ask? It's not an SEC school. Is it Southern Cal?
Close.
Oh, you're really close.
UCLA.
There you go.
Rival. That makes sense for all their runs they had.
Basketball and all that. Yeah. But no, if Condon's able to go 1, and I was actually listening to Bill Shank's show today, and he had who was it speaking on there? It was I can't remember.
The scouting guy.
Jim Cowles. And,
Jim Cowles.
Yeah, and he said that he thinks that Charlie Condon is going to go 2, so it may not happen. But hey, if it happens, I think that's a cool stat just to say 1 of 3 schools.
Yeah, I'm rooting for it big time. I don't know how much. I'd have to go listen to Bill's interview, but I've seen where money could be a factor with the Guardians. I mean, baseball draft is weird, man, because it's not necessarily the best player available. It's a lot of
a slot situation. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, I'll say this, man. I think we'll all agree on this. If the Cleveland Guardians pass him up, they're a bunch of fools, man. There's a reason it's been 1946 since they've won a World Series. So do the right thing. Take our guy, man.
And, it was funny. You mentioned a minute ago, you said he kind of has that Chipper-esque. I had sent Eddie and Paul a text one day. I was like, watch his toe tap. That reminds me of Chipper. Chipper has the toe tap, and Charlie Condon's doing that. So,
Andy, you know me, and you darn well did the toe tap in the backyard.
Oh, for sure. That was 100%. And then when Gary Sheffield, you did the bat waggle. So,
I used to spin the Fred McGriff little around the head.
Is there another way to do it? I mean, come on. But Garrett Key has a question for you.
Garrett,
he said, when Condon is done, and I know this is really hard with football stars, is Condon one of the top 5, top 10 best UGA athletes to ever come through Georgia?
There's without a measuring stick. Let me just try and justify it. There's a reason in every single sport we use the home run analogy.
Yeah.
If a guy runs for 75 yards, he hit a home run. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We use a home run in everything. I think that old commercial, Chicks Dig the Long Ball, was the most accurate commercial ever.
Yes.
Because what do chicks dig? The long ball. What do guys dig? We dig the long ball. I think a home run is the most special thing in sports, and Charlie Condon is hitting him like it's nothing. So we could sit maybe on a future episode and come up with like 20 names and rank them 1 through 20, but it'd be really hard to leave Charlie out of that top 10 at this point, man.
Top
what
10,
he's done is
top 5, I think, is a stretch, but top 10, he's got to be in.
I think so.
I guess it's the metrics of because if you look at Champ Bailey, he's probably the most talented player that's ever been in Athens, but didn't win a national championship. Right. So I guess it's depending on how you measure it. But yes, I think Charlie Condon is easily top 10.
He's special, man.
And Marsh Mutt, he posted, he said certainly he would be baseball rep for the honor at least, but he mentioned, tennis players, swimmers, Neek, Reese Edwards. So there's a ton.
No doubt.
Well, I'd put it this way too. Where would this team be this year without Charlie Condon? Mm-hmm. We wouldn't even be talking about hosting a regional. We may not even be talking about making the SEC, much less anything else. I don't know. He's that pivotal for this team.
Yeah, when you talk about the definition of most valuable player, the definition is what would your team be without you? I think I'm with you, man. I think it'd be like the Braves without Ozuna right now. You have a lot more losses than you do.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I do want to talk about the Braves, but I want to ask you a couple of questions about the football team because we're going to be opening up on August 31st against Clemson. Georgia is going to open up at 12 noon, and they have some other games. Miami at Florida, they're going to be playing at 3:30. Colorado State at Texas at 3:30. Western Kentucky and Alabama at 7 p.m. And, of course, Notre Dame and Texas A&M at 7:30. And I get that one. Did Georgia get screwed? Why are we playing the 12 o'clock game?
I don't. It's all the absolute answer to your question is that there's a boardroom somewhere that has done models, and they realize that they put an intriguing game on at noon on opening weekend that a lot of people are going to watch. But let's ask the same question to the Georgia tailgaters. Did they get screwed? Absolutely, they got screwed. The environment outside Mercedes-Benz Stadium is now going to be just a complete watered down version of what it was going to be. And I hate that for anybody going to the game. It's very frustrating that they decided to cut the day literally by 2/3. I mean, nobody likes noon games. There are situations where a noon game is absolutely appropriate. I'm not going to say no one likes them, but for a game like this should have been a 3:30 minimum, probably more like a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, sure.
To build that environment up. So it's kind of sad in a way.
Yeah, what would the governor of the state of Georgia feel? What would he say right now if the governor was talking about this?
Funny you ask, Andy. I had a really cool opportunity earlier tonight, actually. I was with Cox Media Group, my employer. We were over at the Special Collections Library at the University of Georgia, where it was the 90th anniversary celebration of the Georgia Broadcasters Association, or Georgia Association of Broadcasters. I'm sorry, GAB. It was a cool opportunity. They made me wear a suit, which was kind of weird. So I had to take the hat off and put on something nice, which is very unlike me. But I went over there, hung out. The governor was one of the speakers, and I was able to chat him up a little bit before. And we were talking about sports radio. He actually listens to the ref from time to time, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that is awesome.
But he basically says, you can put this on record. Georgia and Clemson got screwed in the for a noon kickoff. He said there's no way that should have happened. And then during his keynote speech tonight, he said the same thing. And he said this can go on record. So it's not only us Georgia fans that are kind of, rolling our eyes about it. We got the governor behind us too. So kind of funny how he had brought that up tonight.
Yeah, it's funny that and you see that Marsh Mutt said corporate guys are pushing noon kicks like it's a big deal. Silver Lining about 11 a.m. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like this game, it should be if Clemson is a top 10 team, and obviously the Dogs are probably going to be preseason number 1. This game needs to be in prime time. So.
And again, people run models and they know what they're doing, but they don't take the fans into account. And honestly, nor should they. I'm not trying to defend them, but they need their business is getting eyes on the television. That's the thing, is that the nation will watch this game. If not the whole thing, they'll at least watch it until Georgia's up 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. But people will watch. I don't know what the difference in noon and 3:30 is, but they figured something out. But yeah, when it comes back to the experience, one thing I'm very proud to be one, and I'm proud of Georgia fans, is that they are going to be loud, proud, and probably a little bit drunk at noon. I don't worry about them at all.
Not at all.
But I do hate that the tailgating scene just got cut in a quarter, like we said earlier.
Yeah,
that stinks for everybody.
It takes some of the fun out of it. But again, it's going to be kicking it off. And you just said Georgia's going to be up 17-0 after the first quarter. And that brings me to a good question. Did you see Dabo Swinney's comments about the transfer portal and what he said about the players in the portal?
Yeah, so I heard two things the last couple of days. What was the little goofy Dabo comment yesterday about we just signed a whole class of transfers?
So
they're transferring from high school.
That's what he said yesterday.
Yeah.
But today was the one that rubbed me the wrong way. He said, I mean, it's pretty simple. Most of the guys in the portal aren't good enough to play for us. That's just the reality of it. Do you think Kirby Smart and those 85 scholarship guys did not see that and think, oh, we're going to show you how good these guys are?
Well, I know this. They would take Trevor Etienne in a heartbeat. They would take Xavier McLeod. They would take a lot of dudes that Georgia's gotten over the last couple of years. They would love a Dominic Lovett, a Ra Thomas. Trying to think who else transferred in off the top of my head real quick. But, yes, they would love those guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many guys. And that's what I don't know what his deal is with like fighting the portal. I don't get it. I mean, you either adapt or you die. He just refuses to adapt. He thinks his way is the way. And let's be honest, if he did not beat South Carolina that year, he was getting fired, and he got 2 generational quarterbacks. So
yeah, and he won. You're absolutely right. He won with generational quarterbacks, and good for him. Look, when you win championships, it's special. I mean, they need to celebrate those the rest of their lives. I mean, we are going to celebrate our back-to-back if we never win another one, as long as I breathe. But I fully expect to win more. Don't get me wrong.
I think we'll win more.
But yeah, Dabo's always been an oddball. He's a weird duck, man. But I think winning those championships in 16 and 18 bought him a level of immunity where he can continue to be as odd as he is and have the free pass. But I kind of think, and I know if I'm saying this right, Eddie and Andy, I don't think he lost since the Tyler interview. Or the Tyler call-in show. Remember that that thing? Tyler. But they did get fired up at the end of last season, but they lost to Duke, for crying out loud. Yeah. I mean, they did not have a good season last year. If Georgia clobbers them, like I really do think Georgia can. I think it starts in the trenches. First, I think Georgia's offense is going to be elite this year, but I don't think they have the dudes in the trenches to compete with what Georgia has, and Georgia can lean on them all day long, I believe. But I think if he's off to a slow start, I don't have the Clemson schedule up in front of me right now, but if they do lose, say, 3 games, and there's a lot of programs that would love to go 9-3. They would celebrate that. Clemson can't lose 3 games this year because I think the fan base is really getting tired of the comments like he's made the last couple of days.
Yeah, I agree. They open up with the Dogs, and then they play Appalachian State. They're open. Then they have NC State. They have Stanford, the traditional ACC matchup.
Oh, that's right.
God, they're at Florida State. That's probably a loss. Wake Forest. They got Virginia. They play Louisville, Virginia Tech, Citadel, South. So their schedule's not that hard this year. So I mean, they should at very least 10-2 is what they should do. But if they say they go 8-4, he's out of there. So, there's no way.
I have no doubt. I mean, I just think he's on that level now where the fan base is right. They've been rubbed thin.
They have.
They really have. So,
yeah. Well, I want to move on to the.
Hey, guys, I apologize. My internet just Comcast just crapped out on me. Maybe Bally's is pissed at them and they're pulling the plug or something. I don't know. Whatever. Man. Anyway, I know y'all talked about the Georgia game kicking at noon, right?
Yes, we did.
Talked about that.
Yeah, we mentioned in your absence. Yeah, the governor had a funny zinger at the thing I was at this evening.
Okay,
so
good. That's awesome.
The
other thing I'll say about that is I don't like it, obviously, but how awful is it going to be at 3:30 in the swamp?
Oh, it's going to be brutal down
in
there.
August. I mean, I told Logan off air that people may die. I mean, it's going to be just brutal at 3:30. Yeah. And by the way, who wants to watch those two 7-6 versus 5-7 at 3:30? That's a slap in the face. I'm sorry. That's all that is.
I'll watch, especially, I mean, like if and when Georgia wins, which I fully expect them to. The one positive about a noon kickoff is that after Georgia wins a noon kickoff, that's a really relaxing rest of the day. It's actually nice. Now, on the flip side, and I don't expect this, but the games that Georgia loses at noon, like South Carolina 2019, that ruins the whole weekend, not just Saturday night and Sunday. So I don't know. I'm trying to just pull positives out of it. I'm having a hard time doing it, but I fully expect Georgia to have a very, very good showing against Clemson. Then just spend the rest of the day listening to everybody talk about how good we are and root on Miami. That's what I'm going to do.
And if Florida loses to Miami, and you're going to be seeing what Billy Napier is gone after this year, I don't think he makes it to the Georgia game personally. I
was going to say the same thing. I've got a very legit wondering if he'll make it to the Georgia game. We all know those final 5 games of the season for Florida is as brutal as anybody in the country. It is insane, and he's not gonna have a great year, I don't think. So whether they decide to do the early firing, which is kind of getting in vogue right now, like coaches are getting fired earlier because they want to set up that next class, that next recruiting, and it's not just recruiting high school. We're talking portal movement.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I think that's a big reason why they're getting things in line. And plus, the name of the game now more than ever is to keep that money coming in from boosters. And if boosters get frustrated and they start pulling the plug, you got to get them out now, yesterday. You got to appease the boosters like as soon as possible.
Yeah,
so I'm with you, Andy. I'm questioning if he makes it. If he loses, say, 3 games before Georgia, I think he's gone early.
Yeah, he's gone. I don't think he makes it. Like I said, I think they'll make the change in the bye week to let someone else just to do something different.
And something we talk about on the ref, and I think we've even talked about this with Eddie a few times, like, make no mistake, in a weird way, I'm rooting for Billy to do just enough to keep his job.
Yep,
sure.
I do not celebrate when our rivals fire their coach because there's a real fear they're going to get it right next time. Yep. So I will never in a million years sit down and hope that Florida wins a game I'm watching. It's just not in my DNA. I will always want them to lose. But if we can keep him around just enough, I do not believe in him taking Florida to the next level. So do what you got to do, Billy.
I agree. Before we move to the Braves, I want to run through their schedule real quick. The Florida Gators play the Miami Hurricanes first game of the year. Is that a win or a loss?
It's losable. I don't know if they'll lose it, but I think they can add. That's a coin toss, really. They're both kind of mediocre teams.
Then they play. We'll give them a win. Then they play the Samford Bulldogs. We'll say they win that. Then they play Texas A&M Aggies, and it is at Ben Hill Griffin. So that's a trick. But I say they lose that, and they're at Mississippi State. So let's say they start 3-1. Then they have UCF. They'll probably win that game. Well, that could be tricky.
But I think that's trickier than you think.
I really do. Maybe.
Give them the win.
Give them the win, though, for this conversation.
They go to Tennessee. I think they'll lose that game.
Yeah, so, I think it's very losable.
4-2. Then they play Kentucky in Gainesville, but I think they'll lose that. So 4-3. Then they're off. So if they're 4-3, do they get rid of him to play Georgia, or does he get to stay around?
No.
You think he stays?
I think he's still there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking 4-3 keeps him. 3-4. Flip that around. I think he's gone.
If they lose to Miami, that's going to start.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. But like I said, I hope he has a lifetime contract. He's not good. He's not Steve Spurrier. He's not Urban Meyer. So, but I do want to get your thoughts on the Braves right now, Logan. Yeah. So they're currently 26-14, and they just won the series against the Cubs. They are 3 games behind the Phillies in the East. The Phillies just keep on winning. What are your thoughts on this team right now? Because they're kind of an enigma. They got some weird things going on, but they're still winning a lot of baseball games.
The record is great, and it feels weird because we do go into work a lot lately, like griping about the things that are not clicking.
Yeah.
And then I look at the schedule, the ranking, or the standings. I'm sorry. What did you say? 26-13 right now?
You're 26-14 and 3 games behind the Phillies.
That's amazing. Okay. It's amazing to have that kind of record a week before Memorial Day weekend. So things are good, but they can be great. That's what's so frustrating.
Yes.
Let me ask both of you guys, when Ronald Acuna Jr. comes up these days with a runner in scoring position, do you get excited? Because I don't right now.
Not right now.
I just know he's not going to barrel the ball like he was all last season. So it's one of those things, and every analyst, even Mark DeRosa last night talking on the 4-man booth when they brought him in as a guest, he said what we've all been saying is this team has a great record, but they haven't even started to click yet. So they will eventually click. Did you hear me this morning, Eddie, talking about the crazy Phillies stat? Do you guys know the Phillies have played 47 games, I think.
Yeah.
And there it is right there for Marshmud. I appreciate it. The only teams above 500 were the Braves.
Yep.
That's crazy. How does that happen? I don't understand.
Almost impossible.
It is. Now, I know, and now to unpeel that, yes, the Phillies are beating who they should beat.
Yep.
Some of those teams are probably under 500 because they lost to the Phillies. This isn't college football where we're going to compare everybody's resume, but the hardest portion of the Phillies schedule very much in front of them.
Yep.
The Braves have been on the road at Los Angeles. That was a nightmare trip to Seattle. Texas, I think we handled well, but we've been playing good teams. Like we've been playing legit competition so far. The Phillies have not. And we got 3.5 more months of baseball to figure it out. And something, Andy, that Eddie and I have talked about on our radio show actually is I am vowing and I am swearing by this. I'm not going to stress winning the division this year. Yeah. I want the division. I would love that streak to continue. But if the Braves go into the postseason not having to do the same model that did not work the last couple of years, let's try something new.
Yeah.
So I think the Braves are a shoe-in to be a playoff team. It would be a real disaster if we didn't make the playoffs. But I'm at peace not winning the division if it comes to that.
Hey, I got a couple things to throw at you guys. Well, I just want to throw this at you guys on the Braves. Do y'all know who's leading the team in OPS right now?
I would assume it would be
Zach Short. No, he hasn't qualified. Does he really? Okay.
Yeah, it's only 4 at bats, but I mean, I saw that today. I was like, Zach Short, he's leading the team in OPS. But you're right, it's only 4 at bats. So that's funny. But you kind of.
Yeah, looks like Eddie's internet's going crazy again.
Oh, Comcast is letting him down, man.
Yeah, that's poor man out there. His house is named Betty, and he can't even have good internet. So. Well, Logan, so let me ask you about this pitching staff. Chris Sale has been – I think he's been better than we could have ever imagined. How good is he? Is he back to the same form that won him a Cy Young?
Yeah, something that Bill Shanks has been telling us all offseason and now well into the season is that if he's healthy, he's Cy Young material. And I didn't believe Bill at first. And it looks like Eddie's back. We're talking Chris Sale, by the way. Eddie, we're saying basically Chris Sale has been better than we ever thought he could be. So far, it's early. I know he's injury prone, so fingers crossed, hold your breath, do a dance, whatever you got to do. But that slider, man, that thing is working right now.
It's brutal.
It's fallen off a cliff, and he's making.
I'm sorry, guys. My internet is just awful, and I don't know it's never awful. It's always perfect. So if I fade out again, I'm sorry. But what I was trying to say, I don't know how much of you guys heard it, but what I was trying to say is that 26-14, yeah, like you said, Logan, that's great. But something is missing. Something is off with this team, right? I mean, Marcell Ozuna is leading the Braves in every, like I said, Charlie Condon leading in every. He's leading the Braves in every batting category. Okay, everyone across the board. And last year, I know it was the whole season, but it was Olsen and Acuna doing that, right? And Acuna stealing every brace he could. I think a lot of this boils back down to Acuna. I think he's pressing. That's what it's like. It's almost like the MVP season was so incredible. We just couldn't believe what we were seeing. And now in his mind, he thinks, I got to top that. I got to go out here and do even better, right? And I think he's starting to press. And I also want to say, I think a lot of people are overlooking how important to this team Eric Young and Washington were. I think those two guys are huge pieces of this puzzle, and they're gone. They're not first telling Acuna how to do things. And there's a different guy at third that hadn't figured this thing out. But like I said, it's just – something is off. It doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I would buy more into the Acuna not clicking than Washington and Young. I think they're great. Now, they were a huge chemistry of the team, but I'm with you, man. That's why every single night when I sit down to watch the Braves, which I will till the day I die, no matter what their record is or what the team's about. But if Acuna ever clicks, it's going to be the floodgates open up, I believe. I don't know what it is about when he's hitting and doing well, the whole team feeds off of it, but it's true.
Yeah,
he legit does. And another key part of that, Ozzy was not down that long. I mean, he was out, what 8 days with a broken toe, 10 days. But they need to click together. That's the spark, man. The two of them are the two-headed monster that just fuels the rest of the team. And now that our pitching is showing that it's really darn good, even without Max Fried, this is absolutely a World Series team if they can just click from the lineup. And every single night, I feel like it's going to be that night, but we're eventually getting there. I know it's creeping up on Memorial Day, but the season is still very young from a big picture. So I'm still optimistic.
I am too. I think so there, there's a lot of reports or rumors or whatever out there about Ronald Acuna. Maybe he's upset about his contract, and you see the lackadaisical type play where he's getting picked off. It's like he's just not focused. I don't necessarily buy into the contract talk because, I mean, gosh, you're making a ton of money. But is that possible? Do you think there's something in the back of his mind that says, hey, I'm the MVP. Why am I not getting paid like the AL MVP?
It's possible. I mean, look, that's the name of the game these days. I don't have contracts to like cite verbatim right now, but when you're seeing guys sign $300-400 million deals, and he is the only 40-70 man in the history of baseball. And I think there is that sort of desire to be those type of headlines. Of course there are. I mean, I'm with you. I don't feel sorry for a man that's making $100 million over 10 years. I would do a lot of things to make $100 million it's wild money to wrap your head around. But yeah, I think there's a possibility, but I still think that when it comes down to baseball, I don't think he lets the contract enter his mind while he's at the plate. He may be behind the scenes a little angry, but I don't think it translates on the field itself. So I wouldn't buy it.
He's not catching up to fastballs.
Mm-hmm. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. If he wants the big mega boost in the contract, he knows he has to earn it on the field too. It can't be just a one-season wonder. So right. I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I just can't imagine that being the issue with play. But one issue we all have are these crazy Atlanta Falcons. What is your take on this? Like, obviously they signed Kirk Cousins and then they draft Michael Penix. And then there are reports that Kirk Cousins says he was blindsided. Do you think there's going to be an issue with Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix? Is the locker room going to be divided at some point? I mean, is this going to be just basically a complete screw up?
No, I think in terms of a quarterback room, it is what it is. You got a starter and you got a backup. And the problem I think Falcons fans have, myself included, it has nothing to do with Michael Penix. It's how the Falcons got Michael Penix. Exactly. I hope Michael Penix thrives. Now, I'll admit I've been critical. I don't think he has what it takes to succeed at the NFL at that level. I don't love his 4 season-ending injuries. I don't love the same ACL torn twice. Yep. I don't love how he looked like he had a short-arm delivery in the national championship game against Michigan. Exactly. I don't like how he folded under pressure the one time he played a pass-rushing team because the Pac-12, we know what that is out there. Yeah. It's Nintendo.
It's touchful.
Yeah. But yeah, my problem with the Falcons right now is that their ownership and GM think that a backup quarterback at number 8, even if he winds up being phenomenal down the road, when you sign Kirk Cousins and you tell him we're going for it now, come sign this really nice deal for a couple of years, and I know it's 4, but it's really 2 when you start counting the numbers, you need to give him weapons. You need to give him defense to help him out. You need to give him something to go along with it, not somebody on the bench that's not going to play until he's gone. So I have every reason to believe that Kirk Cousins feels blindsided and is probably pissed off. I think he'll be a professional when it comes to the season and play football, and he will right now. But the Falcons botched this, man. They had no business getting a backup quarterback right now with 8. They could have worried about that down the road. Because if Michael Penix is playing this season, something's gone terribly wrong with Kirk Cousins. He's not going to win the job. He's not going to make a quarterback controversy. You drafted a backup quarterback with 8, and when Kirk is getting sacked this year, remember that there were some offensive linemen that went around number 8, 9, 10, 11 that would have been pretty darn good to have. Same with the defense. When they're getting carved up, remember, there were dudes out there that could have helped you now. And that just stinks from a Falcons fan's perspective, man.
Let me throw 3 names at you guys, and I'll tell you this is when the chaos begins, okay?
Okay.
Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. Those 3 quarterbacks are who we face, and then Baker Derek Carr after that. So you go 0-3 in those games, and you watch those 3 quarterbacks go off on this defense. That's when it rears its ugly head, and you're like, why didn't we draft Jared Verse to get after these quarterbacks? Instead, we got a guy sitting on the bench who we've been told is the future QB. And then everybody's going to be, who's the favorite quarterback in the room when you're 0-3? It's the guy sitting on the bench.
Exactly.
Total chaos in the fan base and the locker room.
Eddie, I'm sharing the schedule for this year. They just released the schedule last night. And Eddie, I don't know if you can see it. Okay. So you look at this week 1, you got Pittsburgh. Week 2, you're at Philly. Week 3, Kansas City. Week 4, New Orleans. Like, where do the Falcons start? Do they start 0-4?
You're 1-3 at best.
Yeah.
I mean, that's brutal.
It is.
That's absolutely brutal. I mean, like, look, let's just say for sake of conversation, they beat the Steelers. Okay.
Okay.
Steelers weren't wonderful last year, and I'm not sure what Russell Wilson's really going to do. Let's just say they beat them. Are we going to Philly on a Monday night early season and beating them?
Hell no.
Are we going to stop Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce? And look, we all know Taylor Swift's going to show up in Atlanta too that day.
Exactly.
That team, and unfortunately, look, I'm a Falcons fan. That all three of us are, but I'm almost embarrassed by our fan base on game days, the way they create the lack of atmosphere in Mercedes-Benz. Now, I'm not doing my part. I'm not out there buying tickets and going down there with pom-poms, but it's embarrassing the lack of intimidating atmospheres we've created in football for the Falcons, and the other teams take over Mercedes-Benz. That is going to be.
You just said it, Logan. That's why. You just said we have no shot of beating the Chiefs at home the third week of the year. So guess what fans do? They give their tickets away to Chiefs fans.
Yeah.
It's always going to be that way until this franchise and ownership turn it around the other way, and we're like, yeah, we can beat the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Yep. Until that happens, what do you think is going to happen when Dallas comes in here? It's going to be 80-20 Dallas fans.
Like it always is. And I know probably the three of us. I know Eddie. Andy, have you been to an Atlanta United match in Mercedes-Benz?
I never have. No.
Okay, it is a spectacle. They and this is back when they were much better. They've struggled really bad lately. But a few years ago, if you went to an Atlanta United match, you did not have to be a soccer fan. You realize, oh my God, this atmosphere is unbelievable. The football fans that go to the same arena, they're so encompassed in the clubs and the bars and the nightlife under the stands. It's just insane. And they create no atmosphere at all. But to Eddie's point, and I'm adding this on, the Falcons haven't really given us reason to go make that atmosphere. It's a double-edged sword. It really is. But it's kind of, they both need each other to figure this out. But I mean, the bigger point I'm trying to make is I don't ever want to hear a Falcons fan say, oh, we can't create that type of atmosphere. Atlanta United did it by selling that place out over and over and
by
over.
winning.
That's true. That's true.
The last time I went to a Falcons game and I was blown away was we won the NFC Championship. Wow. That was 98% Falcons fan, and that's the loudest I've ever heard the Atlanta Falcons stay. I know it was the old stadium, right? But you get my point. It was unbelievable. Since that, I haven't seen a game anything close to that. Not even close.
That was Georgia Dome. You're right, actually.
It was the Georgia Dome. It was the last game in the Georgia Dome for the Atlanta Falcons.
That's right. Crazy.
Yeah. Garrett posted, he said, Arthur Smith does not scare him. I've seen it work out. And he says they're going to beat Pitt, but there's going to be a little something extra when he comes back down to Atlanta. So I'm a little worried about that game. So I'm not.
I forgot Arthur Smith was there. Good call, Garrett, man.
Yeah, I'm scared of that game because I don't know, there's going to be some bad stuff. But guys, before we get out of here, I want to ask you about the Atlanta Hawks. So the Atlanta Hawks, for the first time ever, they won the NBA draft lottery. Who do they take? Should they keep the pick? Should they trade the pick? What do they need to do? And that also means, what do they do with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray?
Trade the damn pick. Trade it. That's my mindset. I want to see if we can keep Trae Young. I don't know if we can or not. He doesn't seem happy lately. Can you make him happy? Maybe. I don't know. But I don't know if Trae Young himself – and look, I don't want to base the entire decision off the feelings of Trae Young. I think he can be special, but if you can get a veteran piece or a star to come play with him by trading that number one pick and maybe a Murray with him, maybe I don't know, somebody else, tack on someone, I think that's the best option. I know this Alex Sarr kid may be pretty darn good, but he also seems a little bit like a project at the same time. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the veterans on the Hawks team want to bring in another a project. So I would love to see him trade away. This is maybe one of the most unintriguing draft classes I've seen in a while. There is no Zion Williamson. There is no Wimbyana from last year. There's no clear-cut number one. If somebody out there wants that number one pick, listen to him. Make a trade. But I would love to see him keep Trae in the process if possible.
Eddie, what about you?
Yeah, I'm with Logan on this one. I think Trae needs –
is he good enough to win a championship?
Yes, I think he is. And I think he proved that 3 years ago. That was no fluke, okay? I mean, he didn't turn his ankle on the referee we probably win a championship. We have a parade in this town. I fully believe that. Okay. He was that integral, and he got us there. He was on the big stage, bowing in Madison Square Garden, doing all his antics. It was incredible. Okay. So
it was fun.
It was awesome. That is so much fun. I want to revisit that so badly. But I'm with Logan. I think you keep Trey. I think you trade DeJounte Murray. And I disagree with you, Logan. I think you keep the number 1 pick and you take the Sarr kid. Everything I'm reading about him, he's Wembyana light. I mean, he does have some development to do, but he's only, 19? Can you imagine a 7-footer? Go watch his tape, running the floor like he doesn't run the floor like Zach Edey. He runs the floor like a deer, okay?
Here's one thing.
Can you imagine him at the rim? And he's a very good defender on top of that. So
here's one thing I'll throw in there, though. There's no, I don't know if this is actual or not, but if the Hawks are holding that number 1 pick, I don't know who's going to deal with you without insisting you throw that in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like when the Bears recently had the number 1 pick and they were trying to shop Justin Fields, nobody would work with them because they wanted that number 1. The Bears were like, nah, we're not giving it up. If the Hawks, and I love your model, Eddie, don't get me wrong. I just don't know how many other teams would be willing to work with the Hawks without the number 1. They may literally walk away from the table if the Hawks aren't willing to put it up there. So, but who knows? Maybe they can work something out because I do like your mindset for sure.
Garrett says he does not think that Trae Young can win a championship, and he thinks Murray can win one before Trae Young. So, yeah. I mean, I think, there's a debate. I hear Bill talk about it all the time about Trae Young doesn't play defense and Murray does. And plus you start talking about they're not wanting to get into the luxury tax and all that. So that's
the biggest issue. Ressler is a cheap ass. I mean, he's not the owner we all thought he was when he signed on with this team. I was like, yes, we got a billionaire owner. He's going to spend money and make this team great. And he's doing the complete opposite. He's dumping salaries and claiming it's not for financial reasons. That's what they say on the Herder deal. They said, no, it was not financially. Yes, it was. We're not stupid, guys. That's exactly what it was. So I'm very disappointed in the way this team has been run financially. You want to win, Ressler, spend the money. And what drives me crazy about these billionaire owners, get it through your head. If we win a championship, the gates will be through the roof for the next 5 years. Look at the Braves, okay? Yep. Through the roof.
I have always felt Atlanta can be an NBA city.
Absolutely it can.
No reason Atlanta can't be an NBA city, but it's going to take a couple superstars to agree to come help it be an NBA city.
Yep.
But I don't know, man. It's frustrating. Y'all want to meet someone real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is my man Ringo. Look at him. Ringo.
What's up, Ringo?
He's named after anybody that played at the Georgia Bulldogs, and maybe
he's a Beatle.
Yeah, he's a drummer from the Beatles.
Oh, come on. He's got to be Keely. That's got to be Keely Ringo.
This cuddly dog, man, he just came up and put himself in my lap right now. We just got back in the dog world not long ago. We mentioned Chipper earlier, had to say goodbye to him at Christmas, but I was at Athens Twilight, very short story. At Athens Twilight a couple weeks ago, my wife sees this really adorable dog. This girl was walking. Oh, we got to go say hi to this dog. And okay, why not? So we go start petting this girl's dog. And it was adorable, like a black and tan coonhound Australian Shepherd mix. And we're talking to her. And then all of a sudden she was like, I'm actually looking for a home for this one's little brother. We're like, boom, like our minds went off. All right, this feels divine intervention. So we had longer, deeper chats over the next few days, and we wound up bringing Ringo home. His name was Hero. But we're making him learn Ringo, which is a very easy transition. He's already responding to it right away.
That's awesome.
But Hero to Ringo, man. This is my little buddy right here, man. Look at him.
So he's not named after Keely Ringo.
He is absolutely named after Keely Ringo. You darn right he is.
Like, come on.
Come on.
I was just making sure. So
I've seen, in fact, when I put him on Twitter for the first time like a week ago or so, I got a lot of responses from other Ringos out there, like other dogs named Ringo. I bet if you put a heat map of dogs named Ringo, Georgia's going to be purple hot. There's all the dogs in the world named Ringo right now are in the state of Georgia. That's awesome. I love it. He's a legend, man. I mean, I look at Eddie's background right now. I'm jealous of that. I want that painting so bad. But that is our moment. I mean, look, I know there are plenty of people out there that have fond, vivid memories of 1980. I was -3. I don't. And I'm not young either. I'm 41 years old. This is literally, I thought Scott Howard said it awesome when Nolan Smith put Bryce Young on his butt and the game was over and the confetti was in the sky. What did Scott say? He's like a new championship for a
new generation
of dogs. Yeah,
I thought that was beautiful. I thought it was accurate, but it doesn't mean it's only for the new generation. It's just that now me and Andy, and let me just ask Eddie, what are your memories from 1980? Honestly.
Well, I told you where I was at that point in my life. Yeah. I was more watching my dad root for Georgia Tech and root against Georgia. So I wasn't wrapped up in that championship like it. Now, later on, I learned to embrace it as I became a humongous fan, right? Oh, yeah, back in 1980. Right. But, yeah, when I'm 10 years old, Logan, I really wasn't paying that much attention to football anyway.
I love the fact that we can now, a whole new generation of people 45 years and younger, now we can share our memories, not just listen to our elders. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not disrespectful. I'm not saying that in a negative way at all toward the older crowd. It's just that I'm now really happy we can join in. We can tell you where we were when this happened, and we can, get into those feels like that. Cause I love Georgia's history. I don't have any like strong affection for 1980 because I wasn't there. I was -3.
There's always every historical moment that we had up to that point right there was something like beating Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, which was unbelievable. One of the most classic, unbelievable games. And then you turn around and do that in the national championship. You get beat. And so it kind of diminished all the games, if you get what I'm saying, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. No, it's when seeing Georgia win that game, I was upstairs and I mean, I'll be fully honest, I cried like a little baby.
I did too.
Yeah, it was, and the Braves had just won the World Series championship about 3 months before that, and like that was I couldn't sit down. I was shaking. I paced back and forth, and it was.
I was doing the same thing.
Yeah, I was calling everybody. All that. It was the best thing ever. So.
It was 69 days exactly from the Braves winning the World Series till Keely Ringo's interception, man. But I don't know how much time you got left here, but one thing like I will always remember, and I was fortunate enough to be at the cocktail party in 2021. I was down in Jacksonville with the family. That was the 2 minutes of hell at the end of the first half where Georgia just
crazy
bullying Florida. And then we won the game, obviously, by a lot. I think, 34-7 or something like that? I think that was the final score. It was just a beatdown. Like a number one Georgia beat the crap out of Florida, which is always awesome.
Yep.
But and everybody has their own stories. But we left the game, got back to Amelia Island where we were staying, went to a bar to have dinner with the in-laws and my wife, and we watched, we're getting involved in the World Series game. The Braves were not playing well at all that game. No. And all of a sudden, Dansby Swanson and Jorge Soler go back-to-back in the 7th inning, and the Braves won that game in epic fashion, and then they went on to win the World Series. The Dogs went on to win the national championship. We hopefully will see some amazing things in our lifetime, but the fall of 21, it will never be topped.
As a sports fan, there's absolutely no way it can get any better. Not for
it's peak.
It's the best thing ever.
Yep.
Well, Logan, I want to thank you again for joining us tonight.
I appreciate it, man. I'm sorry it took me so long. I apologize to Eddie first and foremost, but sorry to you too, man.
Logan, make sure everyone knows how they can follow you on Twitter and listen to your show and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's at Logan M. Booker over on the Twitters. I try to
have great follow on Twitter, everyone.
Thanks,
he's a great follow.
I get a lot of flack from the rival fans, but I've got this little counter in my bio, which is real, by the way. That is not a joke. I think I just hit 2,500 days that I've not argued with a stranger online. I vowed not to do that. People can come at me from all angles, and I will literally just put the phone down and keep going on about my day. I don't engage in that stuff. But I try to be fun with Georgia fans. I try to be the interactive guy that can have some fun, and let's engage on there. So please follow me. I'll follow you back if you want me to. The morning show, 960 The Ref, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday. Eddie mentioned it earlier. You don't have to be in Athens. You can go to our app, 960 The Ref app. Where do you listen, Eddie?
TuneIn Radio.
TuneIn Radio as well. You can find us wherever you can stream radio shows.
I'll listen on the Audacity app.
Nice. I appreciate that. And Eddie does a great job calling into the show. We've got his walk-up music and everything. Andy, think about a walk-up song because we need you to start calling as well, man. I'm serious.
Yeah, I'll come up with something good. So.
I got you. If you don't come up with something, me and Eddie assign it. That's the scary part.
Hey, that's fine. Yeah, so I listen, and I always know. Typically on Monday mornings around 7:10, you're going to start hearing some driving and crying, and here comes Eddie from Mackworth. So
here's the funny thing: I do not have caller ID. It's 2024, and I don't have a caller ID at the radio.
Okay,
and I'm the one that answers the phone while I'm on air. But I can literally at times I'll pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, Eddie, hold on a second," without even hearing Eddie call.
That's awesome.
I know it's him to put him on hold. So we have fun, man. I think we're a good, engaging show. I think we've built a pretty cool community, Eddie. What do you think?
Yeah, some great callers. I've met some of them over the years. So yeah, some great people, and they're just like us, Andy. Like I keep saying, they're just massive Dogs fans, and they just love talking about their passion. It's great.
Marsh Mutt, what did he say? I was wondering why Logan never responded to my tweets. I don't think I was being combative. Marsh Mutt, look, sometimes I miss a lot. I will admit I am not great about seeing everything. Sometimes Eddie will text me and it'll be like a day and a half, and I'll text him back as if he just sent me the text. Send me a message, Marsh Mutt. Make sure I'm following you back. I apologize.
Well, guys, this was fun. Eddie, before we get out of here, do you have any final parting words, sir?
I do. Well, Logan, once again, thank you for joining us. And Andy, you were spared because Logan and I talked off air. We were going to talk about the English Premier League and jam bands tonight, and we did not do that. So we saved all the listeners from that. So he and I'll do that off air. We'll talk about that.
Andy, are you soccer guy at all?
Not at all. No.
All right,
the only soccer I watch is when my nephews play. So that is the only soccer I know. So.
I love Man City football, man, and it's a controversial team. They get their money from like oil czars in Saudi Arabia.
All of them do. All of them. It's disgusting. Yeah.
A lot of people hate them, but I latched onto them a long time ago, even before they started winning everything. And that's one thing that, Eddie, I do not talk about it on air, but I spend hours and hours watching European soccer that I get pretty passionate about. I just know my audience doesn't give a crap. So I don't bring it up, but yeah, love that. And Andy, if we do another show, we're going to do an hour and a half of jam bands. Then we'll talk sports.
That sounds, I can click start the stream and I can click end the stream. Other than that, I'll just be here doing that.
Love it.
Well, guys, we appreciate it. If you can do
the opportunity, man.
Like our videos, share it. Make sure you're subscribed. Go follow Logan on Twitter. Follow me. Follow Eddie. Eddie's not as fun, but whatever. But we appreciate it. We will see you guys next time, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs. Hang on, Logan. Don't hang up. Have a good evening.